Hello and welcome to another exam paper walkthrough. Today we're carrying on with our June 2024 predicted or preparation papers, and this is for the 3F. These are based on a Sunday night, so I've picked kind of the easier aspects of the very likely topics. There's a copy of the paper. In the description of this video you'll find a link to a Google Drive where you can download a copy. I would strongly recommend you either have a copy done before watching the video or done alongside the video. Have some music on in the background. I will have some music on while I'm recording this. These topics are taken from First Class Maths Key Topics Revision List, which is included at the end of the paper as well. Feel free to check their papers out as well. Very good series. And subscribe if you like. So this is a copy of the paper, like mentioned. You can find a copy of it linked into the description for the video. What I've produced is a Sunday paper, so I've kind of taken sort of slightly easier, very likely topic questions and produced a paper. It's 88 marks. We'll crack straight on with question 1. So question 1, here is a list of whole numbers from 21 to 30. From the list, write down a square number. So square number is a number, this is the square number because 5 times 5 is equal to 25. So 25 is a square number and 5 would be the square root of that number, so 25. From the list, write down a multiple of 8. So we're looking for a multiple of 8 that is in the numbers 21 to 30. So the number that we're looking at here is going to be 24. Okay, question 2. Harry has 20 sweets. He gives 7 of the sweets to Nadia. What fraction of the 20 sweets does Harry now have? Well, he has 20 minus 7, so he's got 13 sweets. But he started with 20, so it would be 13 out of 20. Right, question 3. Write down the value of the 6 in the number 16,007. So I would just write down 6,000. You could write that in terms of numbers or in terms of words, or you could even write 6,000s, but those are your 3 answers. Question 4, write 15% as a decimal. Well, 15% as a decimal, 15% is 15 out of 100, so it's 15 hundredths, so 0.15. Right, question 5, write the number 2,538 correct to the nearest 100. Well, that's the 100 digits, so it's either close to 2,500 or 2,600. The tens unit is a 3, so we would keep it as 25 hundredths or 2,500. Okay, question 6. This diagram shows a rectangle. On the centimetre grid below, draw an accurate scale drawing of this rectangle using a scale of 1 centimetre to 5 metres. So if we're using the scale of 1 centimetre to 5 metres, it means that 20 metres would be equal to 4 centimetres, and it would mean that 35 metres would be equal to 35 divided by 5, 7 centimetres. So we want to draw a 4 by 7 centimetre rectangle, so let me just put that in. So I want to go 4 down, 1, 2, 3, 4, and 7 across. 2, 4, 6, 7. So let me just reposition that slightly, and we'll make it. Make that slightly thicker, I think. There we go. Okay, question 7. Write the number in standard form. So I want to put a decimal between the 7 and the 5. So my digits are going to be 7.547 times by 10 to that. And then I've had to move my decimal point from there down to there. So I've moved it 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 places. So it'll be to the minus 5. Write 3.42 times 10 to the 4 as an ordinary number. Well, I'm going to be moving my decimal point 4 places back, so I'm going to have 3, 4, 2 and 2 other zeros. So that would move it 4 places back from there. 1, 2, 3, 4. Yeah. And part C, work out. So I'm going to use my calculator for this because it's a calculator paper. So this is my standard form button here. So I'm going to type it in as a fraction, and I'm going to type it just as it appears. So 2.3 times by 10 to the 4 times by 6.7 times by 10 to the 3. And I want to divide that by 5 times 10 to the minus 8. So just double check that I've typed everything in right and not made any mistakes. All looks fine. That gives me the number 3.082 times by 10 to the 5. So 3.082 times by 10 to the 15. Okay, question 8. Margaret is thinking of a number. She says, my number is an odd number. It is a factor of 36 and a multiple of 3. There are 2 possible numbers Margaret can be thinking of. Write down these 2. So I've got 3 kind of key aspects here. Number is odd, factor of 36, multiple of 3. One of these has like a specific number of values. So odd numbers can carry on forever, multiples of 5 can carry on forever. So it's a factors of 36 that's really going to be my determining value here. So if I write down the factors of 36, I've got 1 and 36, 2 and 18, 3 and 12, 4 and 9, 6 and 6. Now, my number is odd. So if I get rid of all the even numbers, and a multiple of 3. So 1's not a multiple of 3, so it's got to be 3 and 9. Write down a square number that is also an odd number. So we've got the most simple, straightforward one there is 1 squared. 1 squared is 1, so 1. Other numbers that you could have, basically any odd square number. So the next one would be 9, next one would be 25. Any of those is perfectly fine. Okay, question 10. Joan asks each of 60 people to name their favourite vegetable. Here are her results. Draw an accurate pie chart for this. So key features. Pie charts need to add up to 360, so we need to work out what it currently adds up to help us work out the angles. So 24 plus 16 plus 20 adds up to 60. We need our angles to add up to 360, which means that we're going to be timesing each of these by 6. So 24 times 6 would give us 144. 16 times by 6 would give us 96. And then 20 times by 6 would give us 120. Right, I'm just going to bring a protractor in for the next part then. Okay, so the first angle that I need to measure is 144. So I'm going to place my protractor on the end of the angle. This is going to mess it up slightly, but you'll get the feeling. So I'm a little bit out there. So I need my 0 line to run along this line here. And then I'm still slightly out. And then I'm measuring 144. So 144 is going to be here. So I'll put a dot on my sheet. And then straight line through that dot and the center. So that's roughly my first section, and that was P's. My next section is 96. So again, spin my protractor around so at the end, my 0 line is now the new line that I've drawn. So let's just try and get that better matched. So a bit out there, spin it round. There we go. And I'm measuring now 96, so making sure I'm going from the inside numbers. 96 is going to be there. Put a little dot, and then we can take the protractor off. And a straight line through the center and through that dot. There we go. And then that gives me my other two sections of carrots and mushrooms. And if I've drawn that correctly, that final angle should be 120. So let's just measure it and see how accurate my drawing skills have gone. Slightly off the zero line there. So we're pretty bang on to 120 there. So we've got a pretty accurate drawing. Oop. There we go. So that's my pie chart. Okay, question 11. There are 800 students at a school. Each student has either a school dinner or a packed lunch. 31% of the students have packed lunches. 55% of the students are boys. 60% of the students, 60% of the boys have school dinners. How many girls have packed lunches? You must show your working. So I'm going to use a two-way table for this. It's not the only way that you could do it. I just think it kind of makes more sense to me. I'm trying in my head at the moment to work out whether to do my two-way table out of percentages or out of numbers. I'm going to go out of numbers. Works first. Okay, so my two-way table, I've got my two categories of boys and girls. And one of my categories are boys and girls, and then it's school dinners or packed lunches. So I'm going to say SD, school dinners, PL for packed lunches. And for both columns, I want my totals as well. So my total is out of 800. Okay, 31% of the students have packed lunches, so I want 31% of 800, so 800 times by 0.31 is going to give me 800 times by, let's try that again, 800 times by 0.31 gives me 448 have packed lunches, so 248, sorry, have packed lunches. I want 55% of the number, so 800 times by 0.55 to give me my 55%. So we've got 440 boys. This one is slightly different. 60% of the boys have school dinners, so this was really why I didn't want to leave my two-way table in terms of percentages. So I'm doing 440 times by 0.6, so it's only 60% of the boys, not of the total percentage. So 440 times by 0.6 gives me 264. Boys have school dinners, 264. So that's all the information from the table. So that's kind of my level 1 answers. I'm now going to switch to the ones that I can work out based on the information in the table. So if I've got 800 there, 440 there, we must have 360 there. If I've got 800 there, 248 there, we must have 552 there. And we'll do this one as well. I think that's the only one that I can do from the information without relying on secondary information. So 176. Right. So this is assuming that I've not made any mistakes. Then my other answers need to be based on these purple ones. And actually, let's just think, how many girls have packed lunches? So the one that I'm actually after is this total here, so I don't need to work this one out. So let's do 248 minus my last answer, so 72. But it makes sense to do a check, so I can do 360 minus that answer, so that should be 288, and this is just a check. And then 288 plus 264 should equal 552, so that gives me a good indication that I got that right. Okay, question 12 then, simplify. So 3 times 5 is 15, and then f times g is fg. So 15 fg. Simplify t times t, that would become t squared. And then finally simplify, so we're going to add the n's together. That will be 8n over 2, which is the same as 4n. Okay, question 13. So the garden is in the shape of a rectangle, 90 meters by 60 meters. Flowers are grown in 40% of the garden. The rest of the garden is grass. Work out the area of the garden that is grass. So if 60% is flowers, if 40% is flowers, 60% must be grass. So we want to do 90 times by 60 times by 0.6. So 90 times 60 times 0.6 gives me 3,240 meters squared, which is the unit in the question, 3,240. Right, question 14. Annie and Lily share some money in the ratio of 4 to 3. What fraction of the money does Lily get? So that's Annie, and that's Lily. So Lily is the 3. So it's 3 out of the total number of parts, which is 7. So 3 out of 7. Rosie and Dan share some sweets. Dan gets 1/4 of the sweets. Write down as a ratio the number of sweets that Rosie gets to the number of sweets that Dan gets. So we've got Rosie and Dan. That's the ratio order that we want. Rosie to Dan. And we're told Dan gets 1/4. So it must mean that Rosie gets 3/4. So as a ratio, that's going to be 3 to 1. That one's designed to try and catch you out, so be careful in a ratio question about the wording, the order of the group. Okay, and question 15. The diagram shows 2 places on a map. The scale of 1 centimetre represents 20 kilometres. What is the actual distance of S from T? Okay, so when I place my ruler on there, I get roughly 2.8. I'm measuring it in real life as well as on my diagram, so it's more like 2.9 on my diagram. No, 2.8. And I've tried to match my ruler on there. So place my 0 point at Shelton, and that works pretty nicely. So 2.8. So using this scale, 1 centimetre represents 20 kilometres. So I've got a measurement of 2.8. So 2.8 is going to be equal to 2.8 times by 20. So 2.8 times by 20 gives me 56 kilometres. And for the second part, on the scale drawing, the scale is given as 1 to 1,200. How many meters does 5 centimeters represent on the drawing? So how many meters? Right, so I'm going to start with this scale first of all. So it means that 1 centimeter on the drawing would represent 1,200 centimeters in real life. So that's going to be 12 meters. So 5 centimeters is going to be representing 60 meters in real life. Okay, question 16. Work out the value of P. So we've got some basic substitution here. So P is going to be equal to 4 lots of X, so 4 times by 5, plus 3 lots of Y, so 3 times by, and Y is a negative number, so I'm going to put it in brackets. And my calculator will do that completely for me. So 4 times 5 plus 3 times by minus 2. And obviously I'll need to type it in correctly for the calculator to work. So we've got 14 there. Okay, expand. So I tend to use this kind of over construction line method. So 4e times by e would give me 4e squared. And then 4e times by 2 would give me 8e. And then for my final one, solve. I always like to take shortcuts where I can. So rather than expand the bracket as my first step, I'm going to divide both sides by 3 as my first step to get rid of that multiplier. So I've got m minus 4 then is equal to 21 divided by 3 would be 7. And then add 4 on both sides would give me m is equal to 11. I should say m is equal to 11. I'm not quite sure why that slipped there. Right, question 17. Heidi wants to make some biscuits using this recipe. Makes 12 biscuits. Heidi thinks that she has 500 grams of butter, 700 grams of flour, 250 grams of sugar. Assuming these weights are correct, work out the greatest number of biscuits that Heidi can make. So I need to work out how many batches of each ingredient she's got enough to make. So to do that, I take the amount she has and divide it by the amount she needs for each batch. So she's got enough butter to make 500 divided by 125. So she's got enough butter for 4 batches. Then if I look at flour, so flour, she has got 700 grams and she needs 200 grams for each batch. So 700 divided by 200 gives us 3.5. So she's got enough flour to make 3.5 batches, which means that she can't make 4 batches because she's not got enough flour for that. And then finally, if we look at sugar, she's got 500 grams and she needs 50 grams. No, sorry, she's got 250 grams. And she needs 50 grams for each batch, so she's got enough for 5 batches. So the limiting factor here is flour. She's only got enough flour to make 3.5 batches, so that is the amount that she can make. So 3.5 batches, and there are 12 biscuits in each batch. So 3.5 times by 12 gives us 42. So she's got enough ingredients to make 42 biscuits. Second part is often quite similar. Heidi is wrong. She has more than 250 grams of sugar. Does this affect the greatest number of biscuits Heidi can make? Give a reason for your answer. Well, it's going to be a no because she hasn't got any more flour, and flour is our limiting factor. So does this affect the answer? No. Flour is our limiting factor. So she would need more flour to make more biscuits. Biscuits is with a C, not a K. So no, flour is our limiting factor, so she would need more flour to make more biscuits. Okay, question 18. A farmer has a field in the shape of a semicircle with a diameter of 50 meters. The farmer asked Jim to build a fence around the edge of the field. Jim tells him how much it will cost. Total cost £39.86 per meter of fence plus £180 for each day's work. Jim takes 3 days to build the fence. Work out the total cost. So the first thing that we want to work out is this section, which is half the circumference of a circle. So the circumference of a circle is equal to pi times d. So the full circumference would be pi times by 50, but we only want half of that. So the total perimeter of this shape is going to be equal to half of this, which would be half of 50, so 25 pi, plus this edge along the bottom. So if I could change colour for that, so plus 50, which is that bottom edge. So the total perimeter of that shape would be 25 times by pi, shift pi, plus 50. So the total perimeter of that shape is going to be 128.539 ... So the total cost is going to be equal to the perimeter times by 29.86 plus 3 times by 180, which is the price per day, 3 days. So if I times my answer by 29.86, then add on 3 times by 180, that gives us the total cost of £4,378.98. pence. So we're going to say the total cost is going to be 4,378.20. So round up as the number behind it is an. Okay, question 19, sorry. We've got a quadrilateral and a straight line. Work out the value of y. So to do that, I'm going to work out this value here first of all. I'm going to say that angles in a quadrilateral add up to 360. So x plus 130 plus 95 plus 65 has to be equal to 360. So x plus, just add those three numbers up first of all, 95 plus 65, so that's 290, is equal to 360. Minus 290 from both sides means that x must be equal to 70 degrees. And then angles along a straight line equal 180, so y is going to be equal to 180 minus 70, so it's going to be 110 degrees. Okay, question 20, simplify. So our rule here is when we've got brackets around the indices, we multiply the powers. So that's going to become p to the 10. And then simplify. So, I'm just going to rewrite this, and I'm going to make my three parts quite clear. Right, and then put some lines in. So 12 divided by 6 would be 2. X to the 7 divided by x to the 3 would become x to the 4. And then y to the 3, we subtract the powers by the way, y to the 3 divided by y to the 1 would become y to the 2. So question 21, there are Y boats on a lake, there are 7 people in each boat. Write an expression in terms of y for the total number of people in the boats. So y, boats on the lake, 7 people in each boat, so it's going to be 7 times y, which would write as 7y. Right, question 22. Andy went on holiday to Canada. His flights cost him £1,500. Andy stayed for 14 nights. His hotel room was $196 per night. Andy uses Wi-Fi in the hotel for 12 days. The Wi-Fi cost him $6 per day. The exchange rate was $1.9 is equal to £1. Work out the total cost of the flights and the hotel and the route and the Wi-Fi, giving your answer in pounds. So the first thing I'm going to do is work out the amount of dollars it's going to cost him. That's going to be 14 times by the price for the hotel of 14 nights at 196 per night, plus 12 lots of the Wi-Fi, so 12 times 5. So the amount of dollars that he spent while on holiday was 14 times by 196 plus 12 times by 5. So that's $2,804. The exchange rate was $1.9 to pounds. So if we want to go from dollars to pounds, we need to divide by the exchange rate. So we need to do 2,804 divided by 1.9. So the amount of dollars is divided by 1.9. Gives us 1,475.789 ... pounds, and to that we're going to have to add on the price plus 1,500 for the flight. So plus 1,500, so that gives us £2,975 and to 0.7894 ... So 2,975.79 pounds. Right, part B. If there were fewer than £1, if there were fewer dollars for £1, what effect would this have on the total price in pounds of Andy's holiday? So the price would rise, although the flights would stay the same. Hotel prices would rise, but flights will stay the same. It's only a 1 mark question though, so I think the price would rise would be fine. Okay, question 23, expand and simplify. So we've got a double bracket. Again, we could use a grid to expand this. I tend to use that construction line method. So x times by x would be x squared. X times by minus 9 would be minus 9x. 5 times by x would give me 5x. And then 5 times by minus 9 would give me minus 45. And then simplify the middle two terms. So that's going to give me x squared minus 9 plus 5 would give me minus 4x minus 45. Part B, factorise fully. So we've got a common factor of 3, and we've also got an x common to both terms. So 3x times by 3x would give me 9x squared, and then 3x times by 2 would give me 6x, and we've got an add symbol in the middle. Okay, question 24. So rotate shape a 90 degrees clockwise about the center. Let me just zoom in on that a little bit. So in your exam, there's nothing wrong with asking for tracing paper for this. So we're going clockwise. So clockwise, 90 degrees about the center, 0, 0. So I'm going to do point to point. So that point there is currently 2 to the right, 1 down. So it's going to go 2 down, 1 to the left. So that point would go to there. And I could do that for each point. So that's 1 to the right and 3 down. So it would go 1 down, 3 to the left. So there. And then if I carry on with that pattern, so that's going to be my shape. It doesn't say label it anything, so that's absolutely fine. Let me just double check. Was clockwise, 90 degrees about the origin. Yeah. Okay, part B. Describe fully the single transformation that maps B onto C. So looking at it, we can see that we can't maneuver this into the position, so it's actually a reflection, and that's the line it's been reflected in. So we need to state a reflection. In the line, I tend to state the line, so that would be the line x is equal to 0. But you could say reflected in the y-axis, that would be acceptable. Okay, question 25. So first part, simplify a times b times 7. Well, we can kind of take the multiplication symbol there and put the 7 first of all, so that would be 7ab. Simplify y times y times y, that would be y cubed. And then for this one, I'm actually going to cross out. So we're just left with e over f. Okay, question 26. We're given some information. ABCD is a parallelogram. EDC is a straight line. F is a point on AD, so that BFE is a straight line. BFE. Okay. Angle BFD is 35, shown on the diagram. Angle DCB is 75. Show that angle ABF, so this angle here, So I've just realised I think I paused that video at the wrong point there. So just to recap then, so we've said that angle AFB is 35 degrees because it's vertically opposite this angle here. We've said that BAF is 75 degrees because it's opposite angles within a parallelogram. And then we finally said that angles in a triangle equal 180. So my missing angle is going to be 180 minus 75 plus 35, meaning that the angle was 70 as asked to show. Okay, question 27 then. The value of Michael's car has decreased by 15%. The car now has a value of 13,600. Work out the value of Michelle's car before the decrease. So if something's been decreased by 15%, it's a multiplier of 0.85. So the original price times by 0.85 is equal to 13,600. So the original price must be 13,600 divided by 0.85. So let's bring the calculator in for that. So 13,600 divided by 0.85 gives us 16,000 as the original price. Okay, question 28. Find the value of the reciprocal of 1.6. Give your answer as a decimal. So you've got two options really. The reciprocal, so if we say that that's x, the reciprocal is 1 over x. So we could do that, although we've got a reciprocal button on our calculator just here. So if we type 1.6 and then press that button, that will give us the reciprocal. So that would be 5 over 8, but it asked for it as a decimal, so that would be 0.625. And like I said, we can just double check that. 1 divided by 1.6 should give us the same answer. Yeah. Okay, Jess rounds the number x to one decimal place. Her result is 9.8. Write down the error interval for x. So it's been rounded to 9.8 instead of 9.7 or instead of 9.9. So the smallest number would be 9.75 and the largest number would be 9.85. So to write it as an error interval, we write it as 9.75 is less than x, which is less than or equal. Yeah, we'd round that one up and round this one down. So there we go, that's our error interval. Okay, final question. Change 1 meter squared into centimeters squared. Well, 1 meter squared is equal to 1 meter times by 1 meter, which is equal to 100 centimeters times by 100 centimeters. So it's going to be equal to 100 times 100 would be 10,000 centimeters squared. There we go. And that brings us to the end of the paper. So just as a recap, so this information was produced from the key topic list from First Class Maths. I produced this very likely Sunday paper. I have produced a second version of this with slightly more complicated questions. If you've not checked that out already, make sure you do. There's also a good chance paper based around the 3-star questions that can happen. But of course, it's not guaranteed that they will be on the paper. It's just a forecast based on past series and the questions that have appeared on paper 1 and paper 2. I then took those skills. I used Edexcel's enhanced skills mapping document to create a group of questions I was going to ask. I then arranged it by order of mean difficulty so that it built nicely. And that's it then. I hope you found that useful. Good luck with your exam. For most of you, that will be tomorrow morning. I hope that goes well for you. Please add any questions, comment, or feedback into the chat for this video. and subscribe if you like.